Hi, this is Katrina. Welcome to my studio and to my channel. I'm just going to do a little quick review of something that I picked up the other day. I was in Aldi, which is one of the supermarkets we have here, and they often have, I guess people know what Aldi's like, they have this odd middle section where you can get all sorts of stuff. And they had these pads of like art pads for $4, I think, Australian. They had a drawing pad, an acrylic pad, and a watercolour pad. Now they say it's 300 GSM. It's A3 size, so this is quite decent size, and 12 sheets. I was like, well, for $4, may as well try it out, you know. What's it really going to be like? So a little bit of a review. So it's come like shrink wrapped in plastic, so we'll break our way into it somehow. Should I get my... Yep. Looking for my blade. So it's obviously not cotton, as we can see by the forestry standard stamp. That would that will only be on something if it's a cellulose-based product. So we know straight away that this is a cellulose-based product. Right. So, fairly straightforward back. Okay, let's have a look. Oh, okay. It's very bright white. Now, this has an unusual texture. It's got a very strong vertical texture. I'm going to try and lift this up and see whether there's a way to catch the ridges. It's very unusual. Now the back is very smooth. So you have this odd, very it's a very mechanical looking finish, which I guess you would expect for $4 paper, and very smooth on the back. So very much you get one or the other. I might even try painting a little bit on each side. You know what? I'll take a sheet off. And I'm thinking I might even cut this in half. I'm not going to be precious about this. I'm just going to try both front and back of this. So it feels a lot like textured cardboard. I'm trying to work out a way to describe it. Okay, so cut in half. I'm going to try just doing a little bit of maybe some wet and some dry marks and things on the front, and then the other sheet I'll try doing that on the back. So I'll pull out my Roman smalls, and I've got a bit of water left in there, so let's see what we have. try putting down some water first and see what happens. See how much this buckles. Okay. Wow, those distinct ridges show up so strongly on this. Just drop a bit of so wet on dry. This is interesting paper. I don't think I can see it's buckling quite badly in places actually. It's really that texture is, for me, it's very distracting. I can see very, very obviously, and particularly where that bit of ultramarine is, those textured ridges are just so prominent. It's quite a, even with these ridges, it's quite a smooth surface. It's almost like I'm going to call it an oddly textured hot press paper, which really doesn't make sense, but I really don't know how else to describe it. That's had a chance to dry a little bit. As I expected, very easy to get back runs and blooms. It really does, even for 300 GSM paper, it really is very warped and misshapen. I know it's not taped down, but it's just a way to test. I'm going to try I know it's not thoroughly dry, but I'm just going to see how it sort of lifts. That's ultramarine blue. I don't think that this paper will stand up to much in the way of scrubbing or lifting. Let's just try. And Right, I'm going to try some things. This is the smooth, so this is the back side of it. It doesn't feel like my other watercolor paper. The sizing just has a very different feeling, surface feel. This actually almost reminds me of Yupo on the back, the way it feels. So I'm just going to, again, lay some water down. Gee, this is interesting. Like, as I say, this behaves far more like what I would expect a hot press paper to do. It has a, as I say, the closest thing I can make feels like is Yupo. I think this might be interesting for some really abstract, expressive work. It lays down, like, it's so smooth. That just creates some really interesting, expressive backruns and flows. I think getting a smooth, like getting even washes on this is very, very difficult. But you'd certainly be able to make some very interesting and expressive line work. Wow, look at these amazing backruns. Have a little look at some granulation. So that's ultramarine violet. Should be quite a heavily granulating paint. Drop in ultramarine violet does not move. So it's just, this is a separating shadow violet. I actually think I like the back better. I think this would work be an interesting paper to do some very expressive ink and watercolor abstract kind of work. I don't have that weird mechanical surface to it that the other paint did, that the other side of the paper has. And if I treat it more like a Yupo, I think that I'll get better results, or at least understand the results I'll get with it more. They've now completely dried. As you can see, they haven't exactly dried flat. This one's probably a little bit more bubbly. Lots in the way of like backruns. lifting wasn't very successful. I threw a little bit of alcohol on just to see what had happened to, but I think it was too dry by the time I did that. The colours aren't particularly vibrant unless you're getting very heavy. You can still see this very regular sort of texture through it. So if you don't like a look of a mechanised texture, not a great option. Now on the back, initially I thought this might have been better, but it's going to be very hard to see. It's probably not really possible to see. But the fibres have really expanded in here, so I don't think that the back of these sheets are particularly well sized. So, and I can see quite a bit of fading in the colour as well as it's dried. So the back, even though it feels quite smooth to the touch, this has responded almost exactly like I would think regular cardboard would. So it's hard for me to consider this as watercolour paper. It's heavy, which is useful, but it doesn't feel or behave like I would expect a traditional watercolour paper to behave. It's probably useful for other media. Certainly doesn't cope with lots of water, so it might be more suitable for maybe like a gouache. Probably be okay for ink, but again, yeah, be careful with your moisture levels. Could be interesting to see how it responds to alcohol markers. Could be interesting. But watercolour paper, no, this is not what I would call watercolour paper. So I hope that little review was somewhat helpful. You know, could be fun paper to use with your 3-year-old if you just want to throw some cheap paint around and stick it on your fridge for a week. It's probably all right for that. I don't think that I would be using it for works that I'm going to keep for any length of time. Might try and do some experiments with it, but yeah, not what I would call watercolour paper though. Thanks. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope this was somewhat useful. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.